In the 1700s, at the end of the 18th century, there was a prison up beside Christchurch, up beside Corn Market, and it was a debtor's prison, and it was called a Black Dog Prison. And there was a fella called Dolocher was lodged in the prison, and Dolocher was sentenced to be hanged. So the following morning, when they went into his cell to find him, they found that he was gone ahead of them and he was dead, for he had taken his own life with a knife he had got from somewhere, and he had just cut his throat and he had bled to death. And so there was a hullabaloo, and there was an investigation. They wanted to know how he had killed himself, because he was sentenced to death and the law was the law. He was to be hanged, and that's all there was to it. But they could not find what had happened. So the following night, or a couple of nights after that, then there used to be steps up from Cook Street up onto Thomas Street, and there was a sentry on the top of it, and the sentry was found on the ground, and he was paralysed down one side. And what he said was a black pig had attacked him, a very large black pig had attacked him. Well, the good man was taken away and another sentry was put in his place. And then the next thing is, the sentry that had replaced the man at the top of Cook Street steps went missing. They went up to look for him, and all they found was his rifle standing there and his shirt draped around the rifle, and everything else belonging to him lying on the ground. So the story was, the pig must have attacked him and must have devoured him as well. And on it went like that, and the next thing is, the pig started to be reported as attacking single women around the city. And a woman was in a court one day, and she swore that she had lost the shawl to the Dolocher, she said. And ever after that, the black pig was known as the Dolocher. Now, the fella that cut his throat was Dolocher. So they said it was the ghost of Dolocher was coming around the place, and Dolocher was now attacking women because he had been sentenced for the death of a young woman. So they decided one night, a crowd of men in a pub, they decided that they'd all turn out and they'd kill every pig that they could lay hands on, all up and down the place. And by a process of elimination, they reckoned they'd get the black pig, the Dolocher. So they went out to kill the pigs, and there was slaughtering, and there was blood, and there was screeching, and there was roaring of poor animals being attacked and dispatched, and they were left lying on the ground. But a really strange thing happened then. For the following morning, when they came out, there wasn't a pig, nor a carcass, nor any sign of the dead pigs to be found anywhere up or down the streets. So the thing got worse and worse and worse, and they searched and they searched and they searched. But so intense was the searches that the attacks started to fall off. The days started to grow longer and was more light, and the attacks fell away. So they thought maybe they had killed the black pig and they had killed the Dolocher, and there was no more about it. Until a woman was going by Fisher's Alley down by Wood Quay, and she was dragged into the darkness once the dark evenings had come again, and it was a black pig. And then the attacks from the Dolocher started again, and people started to get worried and frightened. And one wet and windy night, a blacksmith came in from out of town, and he was drinking in Wine Tavern Street. And when it came time for him to go home, the night was too wet, and he got a lend of a coat, but it was a woman's coat, and he draped it around the shoulders like that. And he was stepping out, and it was still too wet, so somebody, for a laugh, stuck a hat on his head, and it was a woman's hat he had on his head. So now he had a woman's hat, and he had his head down this, and he had his head down against the wind and the breeze and the wetness of the night. Well, he wasn't gone terrible far when a black pig leapt out of the shadows and attacked him and started to go at him. But if a blacksmith has anything, he has a fine fist like that, and he has an even bigger fist on the other side for a spare. So he clattered into the black pig out of self-defence, and down went the black pig on the ground. And when he had the black pig on the ground, he gave it a couple of kicks, and the black pig was squealing and squealing, and he started to shout, saying, "The Dolocher is here, the Dolocher is here." Well, people turned out, and they didn't exactly rush up, but they were happy enough that he was got. So they moved up a little bit, and they came up and they were there, and then they took a few kicks at him themselves. And when they were going to move him, didn't they find that a black pig skin fell off a man. They discovered that they knew him, and they discovered that he was somebody that had a hand, act and part in the whole thing. For he was the sentry that had stood on the top of the steps at Cook Street, and he was the sentry that owned the shirt and the gun that was left on its own, and when he had vanished. And he was also, he said before he died, the man that gave the Dolocher, the knife that he used to cut his own throat on the night before he died. And he was also, he said, for good measure, the leader of a gang that gathered up all of the pigs that were slain and took them down around the corner, the schoolhouse lane, and sold them around the markets then after that. And so he died, and so ended the story of the Dolocher. But to this day, if you walk around this area at night and the wind blows and the lights flicker, you might think the Dolocher is still about.